we are going to be talking about WCW Starrcade 1990.
Yes.
I believe its subtitle is Collision Course.
Yes.
Collision Course is not really related to anything that happens here.
No.
There's a big international tag team championship, Global War. That would have been one. And then they have the culmination of the Black Scorpion mystery.
Mysterious
who
man.
can this man be?
Who is it?
Nobody knows. Literally
knows.
nobody knows. Nobody had a clue at any point. And I will say it is my favourite 3 hours of wrestling that I have watched in years. It is everything that was bad about bad wrestling.
Yes.
There was everything that was so good about bad wrestling. And I would say there were probably 10 minutes of actual good wrestling. I loved all of it. This is the absolute apex of a man who runs a wrestling company who doesn't like modern wrestling being made to do modern wrestling and doing modern wrestling out of spite and it all going wrong. I cannot get enough of this entire show.
I mean, it all kicks off with Paul Heyman and an incredible mullet.
Yes.
An incredible world-class permed mullet.
I mean, that would later in his life become a skullet.
Yes.
Where he's lost it on the top.
Retreating it.
He does not look disgusting here.
No.
And even at this time, he was sort of like, because he is very much the antithesis of the southern traditional hayseed wrestling fan, he is the enemy. And I'd always thought of him as being slimy and sort of, greasy. And here, he's normal. He's a normal man. And you forget that later, when he has that skullet, then he does look really disreputable and gross. Look, so we've got the biggest storyline in WCW in 1990, which is the reveal of the man called the Black Scorpion. The Black Scorpion has debuted. He has taunted the champion Sting.
Right.
He says, I remember you. I remember you back when we were starting out. I remember Florida. And we tonight are going to find out who this man is. So there is a steel cage match that will settle this wonderful storyline once and for all.
So all the way through this fucking show, they put up these kind of like video game style cheat sheet, like what you need to know about every wrestler.
Starrcade stats.
Starrcade stats. And they make me laugh so much because, when the Black Scorpion finally arrives, it's like this big kind of like, he's mentioned cities like this and this. And it's just like, what is this?
We have to remember how this came about. And I might save it for the main event.
Right.
But I mean, basically what happens is the owner, Jim Hurd, who is running it on behalf of Turner, former executive at Pizza Hut, he has seen the WWF and he's going, why is it that this one is doing well when our one is doing bad?
Because yours is yellowed like cigarettes.
No, it is because we do not have fantastical characters. We need fantastical characters. Once we get that, we will become rich, very rich.
You sound like an old...
It does sound a little bit like one of those things that's about to start quite a long film that's set in the 30s about young men.
Let me tell you, son.
Well, she had one of the finest pairs of... Exactly.
And then Nicolas Cage bought my house.
And Paul E. Dangerously, along with myself, Jim Ross, here at ringside. We are excited about this event. We want to say a very special hello to the fighting men and women at Operation Desert Shield as this broadcast is being beamed around the world.
Hello to the fighting men and women of Operation Desert Shield.
Yes.
We are back in time, kids.
Yeah.
We are back in time. The Gulf War, 2 parts. Operation Desert Shield, Operation Desert Storm.
Which one was... Shield was Storming Norman, or was that Storm? Oh, no, Storm, of course. Storming Norman.
Shield is basically the bit before the storm, where they were going, Iraq has invaded Kuwait. We must protect Saudi Arabia.
Soil.
For no other reason than we are good people.
Soil. You will not take our precious drums of people and freedom. Our lovely black thick.
We are going to put this actually is the stuff that if it catches fire, we do know it burns. Put it all in the barrels. We'll take it to our place for safekeeping. Very simply done. So, look, I mean, geez-o, what a time.
Geez-o.
I had a look at what we were doing in Britain. Exciting. Okay. This month, Margaret Thatcher, she's kicked out and John Major comes in. That's how long ago it was.
Oh, and the road to sleaze begins.
It does. It does.
Dismissed!
Dick the Bruiser, they call me. I know Dick the Bruiser, we're not up to him yet.
I got excited. I got well into my
but let me just say, it would be remiss of us to go any further in this first episode
without letting you know that Dick the Bruiser is on his way.
Dick the Bruiser is on the way. Oddly, a name in wrestling that nobody in wrestling finds rude or amusing, right? And Dick the Bruiser is an incredibly poor choice of name for a major star. He had a partner called the Crusher.
Right.
The Crusher had a bigger career. The Crusher has got a big gold statue in Minneapolis where he was a local legend. He had 3 AWA title runs from the 50s through to the 70s. He was a huge star. He did exactly the same thing as Dick the Bruiser. He did not have the name Dick the Bruiser. Absolutely unacceptable. Dick the Bruiser in this, he looks like fucking real life Popeye. He is unbelievable. Amazing.
I can't figure out how old he is.
It's like a man from the 1800s who has come forward and he's
been given a dress-up box.
He has been given a dress-up box.
Put what you think people wear now.
Slightly like it's a bit like Gautier as well. Like Gautier's gonna made some clothes for the Popeye, and he comes out and he's just like, I'm in the modern world. I'm in a main event for some reason. I will do it, and then when it's over, I don't know. The curse is lifted, and I can go back to the graveyard. I don't know. He is. If I shut my eyes now, Pete, I can picture him in perfect detail walking down that ramp, wearing the striped top, like a weird sailor,
looking like a colorized photograph.
Oh, he's amazing. And then when he speaks, when he speaks, we're live in the Kiel Auditorium in St. Louis in Missouri. It was 2 parts, and one side was you had sort of a wall in the middle, so they could have an opera on one side while a play was going on.
Oh, nice.
I don't know how it worked in the wrestling, whether or not they were just in one side of it.
Yeah,
but that's something for future historians of wrestling. I've got to leave them a bit. They can have something to look at.
Give them the breadcrumbs.
Yeah. We opened the show by welcoming, of course, the greatest wrestling promoter of all time, Sam Muchnick.
Yes. Yes. A man I Googled and I realised that he was very important, but he's definitely one of the people I didn't need to Google for an age.
No.
I know he's passed on. He's passed on.
You know you're not watching the WWE now, don't you? When they will open up their biggest show of the year with a very elderly man who is, let's face it, a backstage face.
Yes.
There is it's not like the fans would go, isn't that Sam Muchnick? Sam Muchnick was the man who was one of the key men who established the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance, which was also a cartel, which controlled the whole of wrestling in America. Numerous promoters would come together. They would vote on the champion. They would each get dates on him through this central body. And they worked really to, if you were tied to the NWA, you had access to the biggest stars and you would get them occasionally. And that would mean you could always destroy the competition who were non-NWA affiliated.
Yeah.
So it was a weird cartel that they always denied was a cartel, but was very much a cartel. And Sam Muchnick was one of the guys who set it up. He was one of the wrestling promoters who was most trusted. He was obviously a very honest and decent guy. He did good payoffs. And he ran St. Louis for a long, long time.
Back with more of the salute to Sam Muchnick in a moment.
So that is Sam Muchnick. Up he comes. He does a little speech. They call him the greatest promoter of all time. I would point out that if you were the greatest promoter of all time, you would have a real eye to detail and check things like the mics before you spoke.
Yeah, he launches into it, and no one can hear him.
I'm happy to be back in this Kiel Auditorium. I promoted here for 37 years. And as you all know, wrestling is the world's oldest sport.
And it's such again, that cartel of the NWA, it's him saying things like, rather than saying, welcome to the world's greatest wrestling city. What a card you got tonight. You people are going to love it. It's so great to be back. I love you all. He just does a long list of thank yous like it's a fucking golf memorial dinner. And him just saying, thanks to all the people at Atlanta. And what he means is WCW, and Atlanta is Turner Broadcasting. But it's that thing of the folks at Atlanta that you talk about. It's talks of these smoky back rooms of, how's Texas doing? You going to tell us Texas? All that.
Yeah.
There is a part of that wrestling world, which is, this is the last time you're going to see it. All these guys begin dying, obviously. But this is the last time when the WCW are sort of not being WWF, when
Right.
they've still got a foot in the old territory system,
Yeah.
thinking that people really will care about heritage rather than exciting matches. Wrong!
I mean, it's for kids a lot of the time, so entertain them.
I know.
They don't care about how good your
I
product
am the
has
man
been.
who built this building in 1911. Well, that's great. It's now a
Cool.
gay disco. It doesn't mean you get in. This is being taped and sent to our armed forces in Saudi Arabia. It's basically being videoed. That will be sent, and someone may pick it up, someone may not. I don't know. Lots of printer roll signs. That's exciting.
Yes, it's very
Long
good. Lot
printer
of,
roll.
Yeah, a lot of that.
I tell you, look, it must have been big enough as well that when they bring out their shitty thing that says WCW rules the world and Happy Christmas, the cameramen are like, that is the
That
perfect
is
thing to open this show with, because they have brought their own printed out sign. Astonishing. One of the things I loved about this show so much is when they go into the crowds, and the crowds in this art, there are some shots that made me laugh so much. There's one bit where, I can't remember which match it is, but they go in, and for some reason it's a long shot. It starts with the guy in a Sting t-shirt, and the guy next to him's got another one on, and the guy next to him's got another sort of WCW t-shirt. Of course, that's the three you get. And then it just carries on, and it goes past a guy, and then it goes past another one who's got terrible acne, and it just stops on two men standing in about the third row wearing suits like they're knocks, and they just stare back at the camera, and then it goes off. It's a brilliant tracking shot. I really loved it. But the people in there were just so different looking. They're so of their time. If you had one of them as a friend, you'd be like, who's that guy? He's just like something out of the past. He's like Sam Muchnick. Those men there. It's just amazing.
I'm part of this, inexplicably.
And it's my privilege at this time to introduce to everybody, especially here in St. Louis, the one and only, ladies and gentlemen, Dick the Bruiser.
Dick the Bruiser, 1960s
Bruiser.
legend.
Yeah.
He's born in 1929, so by the time this comes around, he is 61. He looks a lot older. He looks like the sort of, if you've not seen him, you just need to say in Spain there is an expat, really, really nasty racist guy. He's got a load of kids in prison for racist murders. And now he's moved into being quite a successful mid-range cocaine importer. He has that look entirely about him.
Oh, hugely. It is so good. Like his voice.
His voice is astonishing.
You don't like women wrestling?
I don't like women wrestlers. I don't like women that race cars. Women should be in the home cooking your meal. I'm not running for anything. That's
So
why
you can say that sort of
I
thing.
can say I can beat up any woman in the joint.
His voice is astonishing.
I had a look at his voice, and his voice, they call it his distinctive rasp. Right. Every single word causes him immense distress, like physical pain. But he was part of the Green Bay Packers. He was an NFL star before wrestling.
Oh, really? Right, okay.
And he got a throat injury. He got booted in the throat, and that fucked up his voice box. So that's where that growl comes from.
Right. I mean, he's so big. I mean, he is a giant, but he's very old.
Very old.
I don't know how old he is.
Very old. He's 61 in this, but his face is 87.
But I've never missed a match because of broken elbows, broken ankles, broken collarbones, broken noses, 300 and some stitches on my face, on top of my head, my nose broken. Of course, a lot of this happened when I was at Green Bay, but it gets re-injured.
The world's most dangerous wrestler, Dick the Bruiser. That's how they bill him. That's how he billed himself back in his heyday. Again, don't bill old men when they come onto your show in the 90s. Don't go, this is the world's most dangerous wrestler. Our guy's less dangerous. Less dangerous. He started wrestling in 1955, and from then until the late 50s,
He's
wrestled
not stopped.
he pretty much hadn't. I think he only retired in like 88,
Really? Jeez.
which is 2 years before this.
Yeah.
So imagine that. He was wrestling in Detroit, and he was on pretty much every week. He stayed in that territory and became a big national star. They would started him off by having him take on up-and-comers, and he would just pulverize them, which was why he was given the nickname of the Bruiser. His real name is Dick Afflis, and he was known as being a football star.
That sounds like syphilis. We've got a bruise. We've got fucking syphilis. Dick Syphilis or Dick Bruiser. Which one do you want? Fuck me.
Dick Syphilis and Dick Bruise are exactly the sort of tag team names that they would have had in TNA when it first started.
Dick Syphilis.
Proper bad.
Going to play a quick clip of the man himself.
Dick, I know you're aware that World Championship Wrestling has changed your assignment for this evening's match. You will now be the special referee for the cage
Double-breasted
match
jacket.
with Sting and the Black Scorpion, and no one knows more about a cage match than you.
I'm the champion of all cage matches. I've never lost a cage match. I know everything that's going to go on. I've heard there's more than one Black Scorpion, and I know there's a cage. Believe me, Sting will get a fair shake. I'll make sure there's a winner, and I'll see to it. It's square.
All right.
Talking in, I know he's born in 1929, but that is like the patter that people in the 20s had.
A fair shake, everything will be square.
And then it's off to the back social.
I love the fact that he's got that wrestler's thing of going, there's a cage match coming. Let me make it clear. Obviously, world's most dangerous wrestler. I am the king of the cage match. You're fucking enforced. I have never lost a cage match. Just amazing.
Did you ever see the Bruiser running around with rubber gloves? With rubber gloves, so that when I hit the guy, we worried about getting AIDS. Did the Crusher and the Bruiser ever worry about breaking heads and getting some little flimsy disease?
Yes.
I mean, what a fucking voice.
Oh, dear.
In 1957, he teamed up with Dr. Jerry Graham, and Dr. Jerry Graham was Vince McMahon's favourite wrestler growing up. And they were a tag team, and they had a tag team match at Madison Square Garden in New York City against Antonino Rocca and Eduardo Carpentier. And both of those men were early sort of almost like graceful high flyers. They were great fan favourites, huge stars in their day. And when the match ended, they continued fighting in the ring, and it sparked a massive riot, where a load of fans then jumped into the ring and began fighting as well. And it got bigger and bigger and bigger. 2 policemen got injured during the riot. 2 fans were arrested. And over 60 policemen were called in to try and disperse the crowd from fighting. The floor of the arena was littered with hundreds and hundreds of broken chairs. Everything smashed up, those old wood chairs.
Yeah.
Everyone just went nuts. As a result, Dick the Bruiser was banned for life by the New York State Athletic Commission. So he was unable to... That's one of those things that you sort of go, if you went out with Dick the Bruiser's granddaughter, I love you! You'd have been at dinner, and it was just that great thing of going, did you know that my grandfather, Pep was banned from ever performing in the city of New York because he caused a riot? Just be really exciting. Also, the man who is credited with giving Bobby Heenan the nickname the Weasel.
Oh, right, really?
Again,
okay,
a sort of 20s.
Nice.
That guy's a real weasel.
The Bruiser takes over on pretty boy Bobby Heenan. Sends it right through the ropes. He hits on a table. He's out on the floor. Mulligan, Lanza and the Bruiser fighting on the outside.
The one sort of odd little thing that Dick the Bruiser gets is that David Letterman grew up in Indianapolis and was a big Dick the Bruiser fan. And so his band on the show, on Letterman, he used to call the world's most dangerous band.
Oh, nice.
Which was a tribute to Dick being the world's most dangerous wrestler. Dick the Bruiser would actually die a year after this Starrcade. He died of internal bleeding. I'm already laughing. I didn't mean to laugh at internal bleeding. He died of internal bleeding on the 10th of November, 1991, so pretty much a year exactly. His widow said her husband had been weightlifting at home with his adopted son, and he ruptured a blood vessel in his esophagus.
Oh, my God.
It's so gross, but that image of that big Popeye
Working
just pulling those much too big weights. I can still do it!
I mean, this may sound very disrespectful, but we're the only ones talking about him right now. So you can have a go at us for disrespecting the memory of a wrestler, but we are the only ones who talk. Are you talking about him?
Exactly.
No.
I gave you a nice précis of his career.
Yeah.
I told you about his big riot. I said it would be lovely to go out with his granddaughter.
I call him Dick Syphilis.
Yeah, I did laugh when I heard about the thing. It's just basically the image of him straining and his head popping. I mean, that is mean.
Mean Mark.
But mean Mark.
WCW Mean Mark.
Here's Mean Mark, later to be the Undertaker. I am going to go and bruise my dick.